couple of notes from Unsportsmanlike. 5 to 7 right here on ESPN 1000. They were talking about the Chicago Bears and Mike McCarthy. Now, this is the report where Mike McCarthy, who's the current Dallas Cowboys coach, clearly he wanted his agent to let everyone know, if I'm not going to be retained as head coach, my contract's up soon, so I'm not staying with the Cowboys, I'd be interested in the Bears job. And so, Unsportsmanlike, Evan Cohen, Michelle Smallman, and Chris Canty said, McCarthy's of the Bears? Good idea.
You mean the guy who won a Super Bowl in that division and a guy that has helped quarterbacks get better like Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott and could probably help Caleb Williams? I don't know if it's going to be the disaster you think it is because he won't have Jerry Jones lording over him all the time. Not that the Bears are an amazing franchise, but he won't have Jerry Jones stealing the spotlight and, quite frankly, taking power away from him.
I'm giving Smalls an ovation on that one. CeCe said from the beginning, let's think about what's happening with these rumors around Mike McCarthy. CeCe made waves at ESPN 1000 in Chicago because he said, don't go for Ben Johnson. No. Not because he doesn't think Ben Johnson's good, but because they need a level of credibility and stability and been there and done that. That is exactly what Mike McCarthy is. You almost unknowingly at that point described Mike McCarthy. Is what they need.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand why the Bears fans don't get it. Sometimes it's not about the home run hire, it's just about the base hit. When it comes to your head coach, just go for the base hit. Bring in somebody that you know can do the job. There's no doubt that Ben Johnson is a guru when it comes to play designing and play calling, sequencing, all of those different things. But guess what? On top of that job, he would have the responsibility of being the head coach of the entire team, which absolutely is going to detract somewhat away from what his strength is, at least in the early goings of the job, until he learns how to be a head coach in the NFL. So, yeah, maybe this should be about getting the base hit and not trying to swing for the fences when it comes to your head coaching hire. Go for somebody that you know can do the job. Mike McCarthy is a proven winner across multiple franchises, being in high-profile gigs and knowing how to get the best out of the quarterbacks while they were there.
So thoughts there from Unsportsmanlike.
Well, if that's the case, like using Canty's logic, then why not hire Pete Carroll and have Thomas Brown as the offensive coordinator? Bring him back, let him install his offense, see how he does with it. Obviously have the belief that the McVay offense you're getting here is going to work with Caleb Williams because that's where he came from. That's his system. Go about it that way. If you're looking for what would, I guess, be deemed the safe pick, safe but also one that might work, you could do that with Pete Carroll. You could do that with Mike McCarthy. You could do that with Mike Vrabel, somebody who's done it before. Like, that's not, like, it's not that far out of the realm of possibility that it would work because you've seen it before. But I don't really get the logic here when I get what Michelle's saying. We've seen it with Dak Prescott. We've seen it with Aaron Rodgers. Will it work with Caleb Williams? I mean, he's the youngest quarterback Mike McCarthy will have had under him. Mm-hmm. I think the offense can work. I don't know, though, that it'll be that much different than what we've seen. You know what I mean? Like, I just, when he talks about, like, oh, you want to have Jerry Jones, breathing down your neck every day, that's true. But it's no less risky than any of the other moves that they could do to bring somebody in. Like, I don't think that there's pointing like the direction one way or the other, like, which is why if you feel this way about it, go hire Pete Carroll and then keep Thomas Brown. If you think that, if you believe that strongly within the culture and what he's built already to keep guys on track during a really tough 5 games, then why wouldn't that be an option?
Shay?
What you just said is like my point throughout this entire search. X would be no less risky than Y. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why people are selling that, like, Ben Johnson has inherent risk that somebody like Pete Carroll or, in Canty's case, Arthur Smith would not have. Any hire you make is risky. The different, like, when we talk about they need somebody with credibility and who offers stability, so you have to get Mike McCarthy or Pete Carroll, you can't get Ben Johnson. Why does Ben Johnson not have those things? It's like,
because people haven't seen it, Shay. I think people are afraid of the unknown and thinking that it could end up being
right.
They're looking for the next Kevin O'Connell, and some fans think that could be the next Adam Gase.
And it could be, but my point is, like, if you're a Fortune 500 company and would you hire a recent MBA grad who hasn't done it before, or find a 60-year-old with 40 years of experience who, even if he's successful, you have to replace in 5 years anyway? But that part of it doesn't add up to me. I'd rather take the chance on the young guy who I maybe could have for 10, 15, 20 years, and it might burn up and be a disaster, or an equally large risk on a guy who's been there, done that, but I'm probably going to have to replace soon anyway?
I'll take the guy in the middle and Mike Vrabel then. That's not old, but not young.
Which is fine.
Which is I think, is a good hire. Second time around to be a head coach. He's on a very good coaching tree. Then I would choose Mike Vrabel, or I would choose Flores. Same thing. Second time around, learned a lot from his first time as being head coach, called out by Tua Tagovailoa on the Dan Le Batard show. And so I think that those are candidates also with experience, with some chops, that I think that could steady the waters for the Bears.
Are you good with McCarthy then?
I got no problem with Mike McCarthy. The thing is that with these guys, because you bring them in the house, all doesn't mean you have to hire them. But I definitely would talk to them. For sure.
I mean, for sure, have the largest candidate pool you can.
Sure.
They do themselves no service by like eliminating half of the pool immediately. Because like what Shea was talking about, the experience factor. If you're only hiring somebody who has experience, that means no Joe Brady. That means no Drew Petzing, who's another up-and-coming offensive name, the offensive coordinator of the Arizona Cardinals. That would mean no Ben Johnson. That would be none of those guys.
Cohen?
Liam Cohen?
Mm-hmm.
Look, they can go back to their offensive coordinator search from a year ago and be like, hey, 5 of these guys outside of Shane Waldron got OC jobs. Let's do some retread and we like them enough to bring them in as the OC. Maybe we should bring them in, or at least some of them in, with successful offenses. So not Clint Kubiak. Bring them in for the head coaching interview. I don't buy the idea that you can't be one and not the other. So just because you haven't been a head coach doesn't mean that you are not a leader of men. Doesn't mean that you don't understand how to run a franchise. These coaches have been doing this a while. And clearly the names that have been thrown out there, there are some younger names. I think Ben Johnson might have been a quality control guy as of 2018.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago. It's a different league these days. You don't need to be a coordinator for 15, 20 years to get your shot as a head coach anymore. It's not how it works. Joe Brady's the same thing.
Well, and that's the part that baffles me is if you're the Bears, you are playing in this division where you're getting your ass kicked repeatedly by 3 teams that went out and hired guys with no experience. And all of the reporting is we are absolutely wholly uninterested in doing it that way. What? The 3 teams in your division hired young guys that hadn't been head coaches, and they are beating the brakes off of you. And all we get out of Hallis Hall is we don't want to do it like that.
Yeah. The hope is that no matter who the Bears have as their head coach or the amount of coaches they have, defensive coordinator, all this, hopefully the organization has changed. That at this point in time, because now you fired Matt Eberflus, that things have changed. If you go back to Ricardo Lockett, who played for the Chicago Bears back in 2013, even during his time, I believe that was under Trustman, he says his time with the Bears, man, nothing seemed to work.
But when I went to Chicago Bears is probably one of the sorriest organizations I've ever been a part of. Man,
Whoa. So I guess you can understand why Caleb Williams has had some struggles or whatever. Man, Mike, let him cook, man. I ain't talking about Caleb. Caleb has a great talent. I'm talking about the organization.
The organization, bro. Listen, okay, so look, San Francisco, Seattle is high intensity. It's like a fight could break out because it means so much to the defense, it means so much to the offense. In Chicago, bro, I could go out there and drop 4 balls and nobody would say nothing. There's no music. There's no energy. It's just cold outside. People out there shivering.
Who was the coach at the time?
It was it was a white guy with glasses. He was real skinny. He was kind of nerdy.
That's how bad it was. I don't even remember who the coach was.
I don't remember the head coach's name.
Ricardo Lockett on the Marshawn Lynch podcast.
He's referring to Mark Trustman.
He is. Talking about Trustman.
The white
Trustman
guy with glasses who was nerdy.
Yes. And that could have been anybody at Lake Forest. But in that case, he was talking about Mark Trustman. So, I guess my point of hearing from Ricardo Lockett there, a former Bear, he was with the team just for the year, 2013. He was a former Seahawk, 49er, and those are the 3 teams he was on, is that hopefully the organization and the perception of the organization has changed in this next regime. Because at this point in time, going back to 2013, what has really changed? Their names have changed, but again, the perception and the way the organization has run has not been solid.
Well, and here's to play devil's advocate, because I know that there are Bears fans out there who want to know what Kevin Warren's involvement really is. 2013, when he was playing, when Ricardo Lockett was, talking about his time in Chicago and that it was the sorriest organization or whatever he said, There was a different structure for how decisions, the highest of decisions, were made in this organization. Kevin Warren wasn't here the last time that they hired a head coach. So I think a lot of Bears fans look at this, and I understand, like, they've been promised something about a stadium and it has not been delivered. So they're using that logic of, like, look, empty promises, big guarantees, press conferences that look like a joke, frankly, all of that happening, and equating that to this is why they won't get it right with the coaching search. Maybe a different voice in, like, those sorts of decisions, the football decisions, could actually lead you to getting somebody that would be sustainable here instead of the same voices who had been picking the head coaches for the last however many years Ted was a part of that process. Like, I think you have to give that the benefit of the doubt, knowing that the team president was not around the last time that they made those decisions.
That is correct. That is correct. And again, Courtney, the hope is that the Bears can get out of the losing vortex of the teams that we've talked about. The teams like the Raiders and the Jets and the Giants and the Browns and teams like that. You get so tired of being part of that group of just bad teams, bad organizations, can't get out of their own way. You just have to find a way to be able to be a perennial playoff team. That's all that matters. I say this all the time. When I'm watching the Bears, and you may feel this way sometimes too covering the Bears, you watch the team and you see the lackluster play, the underachievement, the stress, and the drama around House Hall, the coaching search, who's got the power, all this stuff. And then you put on upper echelon games. You're like, wow. You see the Chiefs and you see the other teams. Like, it's almost like a different National Football League. When you watch those games and the way those organizations are able to just rifle through the draft and free agency, more times not making the right moves. If they underachieve, they find a way to stay in it. The Bills are that part of that conversation. Other teams are part of that conversation of always being in the mix. You can't always win the Super Bowl, but you could be a relevant team. You could be a team that seemingly knows what the hell they're doing.
The two teams in this division that have been that consistently are the Vikings and the Packers.
And then there's the Bears.
Mm-hmm. It's Detroit's like, getting on that track now.
It's like you're covering a different National Football League, though.
Yeah, it does feel very JV. It feels very amateur.
You know?
And I think that's the frustrating part, because it's like, why do other teams make it look easy that, okay, you have to go through some really hard years, but once you figure it out, you don't have to get off that track.
I mean, I'd rather be the Lions or where the Vikings are right now. Of course, the Bills, because I believe they have the MVP on their team right now, and Josh Allen. I'd rather be Baltimore, teams of that ilk, even the Rams, because they came out of nowhere. Look at them now, 10-6, they're in the playoffs. Teams that have a chance than this nonsense where you have, as Sylvie says, a pop-up championship, and then you just kind of go away for a while. That's not sustainable. It's not. So that's the thing that's so frustrating as a Bears fan for me, is just like, it seems like we do the same show every year, talking about the string of losses or drama and this other stuff, when it should be you and I here talking about the Chicago Bears in a position to be in the playoffs. And even if they fall short, how can they build on the success they already had? We haven't had that conversation, you and I. And that's the thing that's so disheartening about it every year, where we're looking at looking at a Bears team that's in last place, one of the worst teams in the conference, laughing stock around the National Football League, and we're here again.